I'm excited for all of you. Here we go. Okay, I think we're still preparing, but if you're there, for the people who are on, how lovely to see you. And I think we're still preparing to go live on Facebook. Um, but I'm really excited to see all of the people who have joined me on the teleseminar. And I'm here to talk about this amazing experience that I had and that I know many, many patients have had with practitioners. And it's really what prompted me to do this course called Become a Better Healer. Now, I had an extraordinary situation where I was born with hips that weren't working very well. I think there was some sort of hip dysplasia. And so I want to talk about my whole journey to getting well and what ended up happening. I think there is, some issue with this going live on Facebook. And so I'll ask Laura, who's looking at that, to possibly look into it. It's still saying preparing and not happening. But I want to carry on with all of the people who have come. So in my life, this didn't bother me, this whole hip issue. I did a lot of yoga, I did a lot of exercise, and was completely fine until a few years ago when I stopped being fine and just suddenly couldn't walk very well. And it was getting worse and worse. Well, because I'm very knowledgeable in this field, because we've been doing a magazine for 30 years about alternative medicine, I went to different alternative practitioners to find out what was going on. And of course, at the time, everybody thought it was my back. So I went to a variety of practitioners, all through the whole spectrum of alternative type things, and used everything, including intention. And that put things at bay for a while. And then in the last few years, it didn't. And so when I went to person after person to see if there was something I could do besides surgery, I wanted to exhaust everything first. What started occurring to me was the languaging that was being used. It was amazing. And because I've been working in the area of thought and intention for so many years, that was the thing that started sticking in my mind, that these really fantastic, top of the range practitioners didn't realize what they were thinking and saying was having a profound impact on me. Now, I'll share I'll share just a few of them with you. People just talked off the top of their head, oh, you must have scoliosis, which turned out not to be the case. Or this must hurt, doesn't it? When it didn't. Or even worse things like, you're a shadow of your former self. That's what somebody said to me when I was at the very end, when I was on crutches and actually couldn't walk very well at all. Well, I've never been a shadow of my former self. I just couldn't walk very well. So I started really thinking about all of this and thinking about how words are really key to the power of intention and healing. And words can be the most important thing of all. And people don't really realize they can be brilliant otherwise in their medicine and their techniques and be top of the tree in their particular modality. But in their languaging, they could be sabotaging themselves inadvertently. Even in their thinking, they could be sabotaging themselves inadvertently. It always makes me chuckle when I hear that one of the favorite songs played by surgeons who do heart surgery is the Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust. And they do it because they like that beat, boom, 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 another one bites the dust. And that keeps them going over, a many hours long surgery. But they don't realize that their unconscious patient is still taking things in. And those words can cut deep. For me, I know the words that worked for me with my surgeon were very, very simple. She is a top surgeon in hip surgery and not known in any way for her bedside manner, and quite the reverse. But she said to me when we were discussing whether or not I should go ahead with this, and I was not really sure, I said, well, what can I do after that? And she said, what can't I do? I think I said. And she said, well, maybe not skydiving, pretty much everything else. And she was right. And it was probably those words more than anything else, when I had heard from lots of people about limitation and lack, that was the thing that really helped. And now I'm back to doing all sorts of things, HIIT classes, complex yoga, all sorts of things. And I've had operations on both hips. And yet those words were healing words for me. And also my own thoughts during the procedure, because a year ago, I was in the hospital for 8 days. And through the whole thing, I decided to keep into my head all of the positive thoughts and intentions I possibly could. And you know what? I underwent what is supposed to be one of the 10 most painful surgeries. And I didn't feel a thing. I had no pain. I took paracetamol, that's Tylenol in America. That was it for a week. No opiates, no nothing, even lighter anesthesia. And I attribute that not only to the really excellent care I got, but even more to the power of thought, the power of thought. And this is why I decided to do a course for practitioners of every variety, whether that's doctors, nurses, alternative practitioners, and that's everything from spiritual healers to bodywork practitioners, all sorts of practitioners of any type, even, spiritual healers, Reiki practitioners, people who do matrix re-imprinting, the whole lot, because excellent alternative practitioners of all variety, excellent conventional practitioners of all variety, don't realize that even what they're thinking can affect their patients. Now, I've been looking at the work of a guy called Ted Kapchuk, who is a professor at Harvard Medical School. Now, Kapchuk is an acupuncturist by training, but he got fascinated by the power of the placebo. And he found some extraordinary things. For instance, one amazing study he did. He had patients with very severe carpal tunnel syndrome. That's when their wrists really hurt from repetitive strain injury. And he put them into two groups. One group got pain pills. The other group got acupuncture. Now, 1/3 of all of the patients had side effects so badly from either modality that they had to take to their beds. But the rest of them, the other 2/3, most of them got much, much better. Now, here's the interesting part of that study. The people who received the pills were given pills made of cornstarch, placebos. The people given acupuncture had retractable needles So they never actually got acupuncture. Nevertheless, it was the patient's thoughts about their medicine, good or bad, that either sent them to bed with terrible side effects or had them get much, much better. The real medicine was their thoughts. The real medicine also was the practitioner's thoughts and languaging, because Kapchak has found over and over and over again that what a practitioner says about the treatment, what even in my view, what he thinks about the treatment and the person's diagnosis is the fundamental key to whether or not that patient is going to get better. So let's unpack that for a minute with one other study that Kapchak did, and he's done loads on placebo stuff. One study he did was really interesting. He had regular drugs and placebos, and the placebos, the sugar pills, were labeled placebo. Nevertheless, he found if those patients who wanted to follow their doctor's orders, it didn't matter whether they got the drug or the placebo, they got better as long as they believed their doctor, as long as they believed their practitioner. So this really tells us that healing thoughts and healing words are the best medicine. And what I found is it's not only the practitioner's language that he has to watch, but also his thinking, his judgments about that patient. I found a really fascinating instance in my mother-in-law when she had end-stage breast cancer. She didn't admit to the family that she was suffering until the very end of this, this situation where her doctor told us that she only had a couple of months to live and that we should get her papers in order, her things in order. So it was too late for things like chemotherapy or surgery. So we brought her to an integrative specialist we knew, Dr. Patrick Kingsley, who specialized in holistic treatments for cancer. So I was in the room with Patrick and my mother-in-law, Edie, when he examined her. And her GP had told her she had, he told us she had a few months to live, and even recoiled when he looked at her breast, which was ravaged with cancer. And there was Patrick. When he took a look, he said, oh, we can handle that. I can handle that. And that's when I knew she was healed. That's when I knew she was going to get better. And she was. He refused to characterize the length of her illness. He knew that he could help her, and he transmitted that positivity to her. And she lived for many more years, just changing her diet, taking some supplements, getting intravenous vitamin C and a few other things. What I've also found is it's not just the language of an alternative practitioner or conventional practitioner that will is the key to someone getting well. It's also even their thinking about it. When you diagnose a limitation, you limit your own thinking habits, your own ideas about that patient. And I've found that with someone like Patrick, who realizes that no one can predict with any certainty how someone is going to respond to the challenge of healing. No one can say and give a time frame about when someone is going to live or die. So therefore, even your thinking about it will affect what you do with that patient. So one of the things that I do is work with practitioners to help them with intentions. Because the other thing that I've discovered in my work over the years is that thoughts are essentially trespassers with the ability to affect other people and things. So think about that for a second. If you are thinking, oh, well, this patient only has a couple of months, or, oh, I don't know whether or not I can help this person, or anything like that, or this person, is really sabotaging themselves, or wow, this person really has an extreme version of this illness. All of those thoughts can get transmitted to the patient. So what I like to do is teach practitioners to be more mindful and present about the negativity they are inadvertently passing on to their patients. So I do that working with practitioners, teaching them 13 keys to intention mastery, the things that I consider most important. And they are about focusing your thoughts with laser-like efficiency on your patients so that you present positive, not only positive thoughts, but very focused, specific thoughts about their healing. So it aids the techniques that you are obviously so good at doing. When you add thought to something, when you add intention to it, essentially it supercharges the effects. But what about when you've got a patient who is sabotaging her own ability or his own ability to heal? That's another aspect of this. It's not only your thoughts and languaging that are key to the healing process, but also the thoughts and languaging of your patient. And that's another thing I like to address, is how to heal that person's mind about their illness. I found that so key in my own situation, but I've also found that to be key in the 30 plus years that I've been looking at medicine and looking at the power of intention. I've found that it is possible to locate where the person is sabotaging themselves, the destructive thoughts that patient has that is undermining their ability to heal. I've also found you are able, through the power of thought and intention, to find where that started, where that self-sabotage started, and to work with the person to go back to that moment, to heal it. And that, I find, is an extraordinary, powerful technique for healing people's thoughts about when their illness started. Because, of course, patients, as soon as things start going wrong, as soon as they can't operate normally or operate without pain, their thoughts go to the negative. They whir around their heads in a negative loop. And so I think one of the jobs of a healer is also to heal those thoughts and those thought patterning. And that is an important element and something that I think is central to the responsibility of a practitioner. The other thing I wanted to talk about before I start taking questions is the power of a group to heal an individual. Now, I've seen this, written about this, talked about this at length, the power of 8, which I've been working on for about 14 years. It is the power of a small group to create instant miracles. And I've seen thousands of people get healed in an instant through a group intention, a group of strangers sending intention for the first time. Now, I've seen people get up out of wheelchairs. That was even a situation that got filmed at the last live event that I spoke at before lockdown. A woman who we put in a Power of 8 group, like the rest of the audience, had been in a motorized wheelchair with idiopathic paralysis that came and went, mostly came. And after her intention, she got up out of her wheelchair. But here's an even more interesting thing for any practitioner. I have found, and the studies and the evidence shows this, that if you have an illness, if you help other people with that illness, you yourself are more likely to heal. And that's what I've found in Power of 8 groups. One of the magical elements of it is altruism. The fact that you're in a group, you're sending intention for someone else to heal. Over and over again, I have seen not only the recipients, but the senders get healed. That is amazing to me. And what I found with that is it almost doesn't matter if you're the sender or the receiver. The evidence on altruism shows it's like a bulletproof vest. People who do things for other people live longer, healthier, happier lives. People with depression who help other people are less likely to be depressed. Volunteers are oftentimes the happiest and healthiest people you know. So another thing that I like to teach practitioners is the power of putting your patients in small groups and having them do healing intention for each other. Not only is it powerful as a community of patients, and community itself is one of the things that human beings need more than anything else in their lives. We need it more than food. We need to belong. There's so much evidence that being part of a community, if you join just one little thing, a bowling club, a book club, any kind of thing like that, next year, you will have your chances of dying. It's that powerful. But we also know that community can protect us from everything from heart disease and stroke to the common cold. That's how powerful being part of something is. So when you can take patients suffering from some challenge, some healing challenge, and put them together in a group, you will dramatically increase your success rate with them. I can almost guarantee it. So those are the kinds of things that I find are really powerful in teaching patients and professionals about the whole healing triangle. So I say triangle because it's the patient, the practitioner, the illness itself. And maybe it's a square in that the fourth thing is the community. So I would love to take some questions from the audience here about what this course is all about. So it's a 3-part course. It is 6 hours in total of concentrated live and interactive teaching. We do it on Zoom. There's all kinds of ways we can do things to make it interactive. We can do polls. We can put people into groups. We can practice the sessions right then and there. I give you homework, so to speak, to learn some of these techniques. And we found it's really successful in the past. We kick off on May 13th, and it's weekly thereafter. So it's May 13th, 20th, and 27th. So let me take some questions from our audience now. And thanks so much for bearing up under this sort of Facebook challenges. So let's see. Okay, so people have asked, okay, just about using Power of 8 groups. Bente from Denmark said, I started a Power of 8 group 2 months ago. Is it okay to repeat the intention several times during the 10 minutes when you do it? Yes, absolutely. When nothing happens to that person, although we've taken baby steps, we'll move on to someone else and go back to that person. And do you imagine that person to be in the center of the circle, or does the person just imagine to be in the circle? You can imagine being physically present with Power of 8 people. Sometimes with my own Power of 8 group, we teleport ourselves. We'll say things like, okay, let's imagine we're in Hawaii or wherever we want to be, or at somebody's house. And so we can just visualize ourselves all together, holding hands in a circle. Or you can just imagine yourselves being right there on Zoom together. Does it make a difference when the group of 8 are medical professionals for medical issues, says Jules. Absolutely not. You can do a Power of 8 group for anything. And if they have medical issues, they're human beings, they do. And somebody said, what's the difference between this course and the Intention Masterclass? That's Bettina. Well, this is focused on healing patients, and it's for professionals only. Obviously, we learn the 13 keys for intention mastery, but there's a lot of languaging that I work on with the practitioners, so that it's not about themselves, it's the languaging they use with their patients and the thoughts they have with their patients, and learning how to suspend judgments on diagnoses. In fact, learning how to avoid diagnoses is a skill in itself. And also learning how to deal with your patients and their own self-sabotage, helping them to go back to the first moments of their diagnosis, and to deal with it in a different way are new skills. Okay, let's see. Does it matter whether the client believes in the power of intention for healing? And does that affect the outcome? No. As I say in my book, The Power of 8, a group of my students worked on a young boy who had thrown himself off a 40-foot structure onto hard ground in an attempt to commit suicide after breaking up with his first serious girlfriend. And we did 3 intentions for him, and he got better in record time. He didn't believe one thing about the power of intention. He thought his parents' belief in it was pretty stupid, as lots of adolescents do. So no, it doesn't matter whether he believes or not. However, I do say you should get the person's permission. So let's see. Can we deal with sabotage thinking with this modality? Yes. What it looks like is the sabotage thinking is somebody thinking without thinking. Somebody thinking about their illness in a negative way without being present to the thinking. So that takes some time to work on, but it's a really important point, because when you're thinking about your illness, you're almost entirely thinking about it in a negative way. And as I said, when I started, I had the opportunity to put this to the test with my own situation when I was in a hospital for 8 days. And I went in there after being upset about having to have surgery, all of the things I really did not want to do, I decided to absolutely love the entire experience, to love the nurses, to love the surgery, to love the anesthetist, to love the food, to love the physios, to love the whole thing. And I actually did. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I believe that only had to do with the power of thought, because I certainly, as everybody knows, he's read my magazine, What Doctors Don't Tell You, I certainly am not a great devotee of surgery or hospitals. So I think that it's about training the client in becoming present to what they're thinking. And also, we also have techniques of going back to the moment when they first got the diagnosis, or the first time they got ill, and dealing with some of that too. Okay, so would I actually, Sally, I'm not quite sure about that. Sally has said, you said on Twitter today to intend to go out to the world without fear. Would you actually use fear in a positive intention? Yes. A positive intention is a statement of what you intend to do. There is an erroneous idea that you can't mention the thing you want to be free of, because you'll bring it somehow to you. That is a common misconception, and it isn't true at all. Think about that for a moment. If you couldn't name anything negative in a positive intention, you would never tell the universe what you really want. You wouldn't tell the universe, for instance, that you want to be free of cancer, because you'd be afraid to mention the C word. Well, you have to. But what you're actually doing is, when I said I intend to go, my intention today is to go out into the world without fear, that's a positive intention, because it's saying I'm intending to go out into the world and be positive. And the reason I use the term without fear is because people are fearful of leaving their houses because of COVID. So that was my positive intention. Someone asked the course, when the course is 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 noon Eastern, 5 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Europe. And someone said they were a school nurse, but has a daughter who's been diagnosed with EDS and POTS, so is in a huge amount of pain all the time. So this was an anonymous attendee, but I'm assuming that you want to both use this for school, but also with your child. So for anybody who can't make the time live, although I really encourage you to do so, because we have all kinds of exercises we do, I would also tell you that we record it. So for the people who can't attend live, they can also see the recordings. And someone said, I want to set up power of intention groups to help things going after the coaching process. My sense is this application aligns with the course topic. Yes, you can, if you do coaching, you can put people in Power of 8 groups. Do you say this or something even better at the end of the intention? I love to say happy and healthy in every way at the end. Yes, we do. I always say when we're dealing with healing, our intention, if it's a Power of 8 group, our intention is that Jane Doe be free or immediately, completely, and permanently free of all breast cancer and any metastases, and that she is healthy and well in every way. So those are some of the questions. Let's see if we've got some other questions in the chat. And thank you all for coming. And and I'm seeing people from all over the world, which is lovely. Okay. Cancer begins because the DNA, this is from Gary, begins to unravel. Okay, yes, there are lots of things about, there are a lot of wonderful methods of healing cancer, of healing everything. There's so many modalities and alternative modalities that work and work brilliantly. But I also want to say that cancer can also happen in the mind. Cancer can start when somebody stops believing that life is ever going to be better and get to be good. The Institute of Noetic Sciences has done many studies of spontaneous healing in all kinds of illnesses, including cancer. And they have found that in those cases of spontaneous healing, the person oftentimes, almost always, makes a conscious shift in their thinking or their actions too, and that is carries on from their thinking. So they leave the abusive husband, or they leave the dead-end job, and they decide to embrace a life that is engaging, happy, and purposeful. And the cancer oftentimes goes away, or the situation goes away. So this is the other issue to think about, is the power of the thought to create that illness and how to do something with it. And that's what this course is all about too. Okay, let's see. Great. We're hearing people here who are doing Power of 8 groups. And somebody from Maureen has said the labels or lack thereof make a huge difference. Absolutely. Labels can kill. And there was a wonderful example of that, a very sad example of that, with a British hospital, London hospital. A man was going for treatment and actually didn't know what he had, but was doing really well. And his doctor left his office during one of his meetings for a moment. And the man looked down on his paper and he saw the word leukemia. And he suddenly thought, oh my God, I have cancer. A week later, he was dead. And after they did a postmortem, they said there was no change in his situation physically. What had happened was that diagnosis had killed him. The fact that he knew he had cancer and created such a negative thought about it in his mind killed him. So let's see. Yeah, Anna has said, seeing the illness as a process this human being is in. That is great. That is great. That is exactly it. Let's see. Okay. Ray said, I only ever work 1 to 1 or 2 to 1 with my clients, never in a group setting. Is a Power of 8 going to help me to help clients on an individual basis? Yes, because you can work with them, Ray, on an individual basis. But having them you don't have to be part of this group. That's just you helping them come together, if they want to, with other patients of yours, doing little Power of 8 groups themselves. And it's about the connection they have, as well as the intention, that does the following. Number one, it is extremely healing. It's extremely effective on so many levels, not only intention, but groups themselves. They have, as Emile Durkheim, the famous French psychologist, put it, a collective effervescence. when people get together with groups, miracles happen. There's the altruism thing. Patients oftentimes are very self-focused, and this forces them to get off of themselves, which I find is an amazing, amazing healer. Also, with the work that I've done and the studies I've done on the power of 8, we have found that patients and any individuals who do power of 8 groups very quickly go into a state of ecstatic oneness. That's demonstrated by brainwave studies we've done on them, showing that parts of the brain involved with separation, the parietal lobes that sit here, the right frontal lobes, which are oftentimes involved with worry, doubt, negativity, all of that is dialed way down. And people talk about the extraordinary ecstatic feelings of oneness that they experience when they're part of a power of 8 group. And so that in itself is a huge healer. That's where the miraculous healings occur. So there's all of those things. There's also the companionship. It's very lonely to go through illness. Having a group of strangers who are sending healing intention to you, sending you love, that in itself is hugely, hugely healing. So the work you do, the technique you do is individual. The groups themselves are for the patients. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. And Ray, who asked, she's taken 2 of my courses. All of the basic techniques you've probably learned in my master class. However, its application to patients is what will be really new, and the learning you're going to do about your thinking about your patients is going to be new, and how to work with them to help their self-sabotage will be new. Somebody asked if we can do this if we're just a group of 4. Yes, I usually say 5 or better. It's nice to have a group, but it can work. I've seen it work, power of 8 groups, work in groups as small as 3. Okay. Tom said, you mentioned 10 minutes in a session. Is that a normal time frame? It seems a bit short. Oh, yes, that's a normal time. That's the only time we do. Lots of people think that you have to really prime yourself, like hours of meditation, hours in a sweat lodge, or years of disciplined practice. We have found, and we've done brainwave studies on this, I've done 36 scientific studies on using intention in 10-minute windows, and it works. You don't need to spend hours in this state. It works almost immediately. That's what the brainwave studies we've done demonstrate. Okay, let's see. Lucette said, you started a Power of 8 group with 11 Qigong teachers. That's so great. That's great. That's great. And the results are amazing. My knee was healed 80%. That's so great. I'm really glad after 1 session. That's the power of it. That's the power of it. And she said she does a chi field. And the only thing I would say is I'm thrilled that you're doing it. It will work just as well without a chi field. It'll work just as well because you're creating that field in the power of the group. Our group is intending for someone with cancer. They were scheduled for surgery prior to the intending. Should the person ask for tests again to see the current status of the cancer? Sure. if you want to, absolutely. If she has any doubt that she doesn't need the surgery, sure, but I would make sure that that is verified by a study. Can you, yeah, can you set up a community without money being involved? Says Tita, we all need help and belong. I have several places for people who can't take my courses. You can be part of my Facebook page, Connecting and Healing with the Power of Eight, and just advertise for people to join a group with you in your time zone. That costs nothing. You can be part of my community on lynnmctaggart.com and just join up the community and ask for people to join a Power of Eight group. That costs nothing. You can be part of my intention experiments and join giant groups of thousands of people doing intention for worthy targets. You can be part of our intention of the week groups. We do intentional healing on my community for 3 people with health challenges, and that costs nothing. There are many, many ways you can do things and receive the extraordinary effects of doing intention for other people. Petra says, can a big fibroid be healed and disappeared completely? Well, we've seen everything from cancer to paralysis be healed. So it doesn't always happen. It doesn't always happen, but it happens enough. It's happened thousands of times to say, to realize that extraordinary things happen. She wants to know, there's a friend, Michaela said she has a friend who would love to take the course but isn't available on the dates and times it's being offered. Will we be offering it again? And if the sessions are recorded, can she still take it but delayed? Either one. I'll be offering it again next year, but she can also, if she wants to have it, the information, yes, it is recorded. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, somebody mentioned about Catherine Ponder's book. Look, there are many ways to heal, lots of ways. There's not one way. I've studied many, many healing modalities, and pretty much they all work in one way or another. What I have found most successful in intention work is doing it the way that I show, the way that I teach, but also getting people's permission, unless they're unconscious. And so I found the best thing to do is not to mix modalities. And a lot of reasons for that are just simple. Sometimes people say, oh, well, I want to add in meditation to Power of Eight stuff. And I always say, please don't, because meditation causes certain brainwave changes that are absolutely antithetical to Power of Eight intention work. So we don't know if it's going to cancel it. They're going to cancel each other out. So I always suggest do one modality or another. And lots of different ones work. Many of my friends in this industry use all kinds of different techniques that are different from mine, and they work brilliantly. So take it one at a time. Okay, let's see. Somebody says that they're studying to be an energy healer, so that she'd like to have the right thoughts and hit the ground running to be available for her clients. Can I take this course even though I'm not a professional? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can be studying to be this. So absolutely. Okay, let's see. Here. Given our year, oh, this is an interesting one. Given our words, no, wait, I think it's from TV. Given that our words affect others, but not everybody realizes it. What is a script I can use when a friend or relative tells me how bad someone's chronic illness is? What a great question. What you need to do is basically just say, well, there's always, in fact, I would probably say there's always hope. There's always hope, and hold that hope for them. That's the best and most healing thing you can do, is to hold the hope. My own Power of 8 group, we've had 2 stage 4 cancers in it completely turn around. There's always hope. And I remember the first one, which was stage 4 prostate cancer. When I first heard about it from one of their friends, it looks pretty bad. And remember Patrick Kingsley? I can handle that. Now, my mother-in-law's breast was essentially raw meat. It was that's how her general practitioner described it to my husband. So Patrick did not flinch. He didn't even blink and just said, we can handle that. And that is the moment she got healed in my mind. Okay. Is there a way to begin the process right now if somebody is ill, entering hospital, or walking into an ER, into a system they don't have faith in? Something they can start doing right away. Well, I have great experience in this. Remember, I had to walk into the hospital last year, and boy, it's a system I've been criticizing for 30 years. So I didn't have a great deal of faith in it, but I chose to change that thought. That's what helped me. So let me just recount what I did. So I walked in with my husband. I sat there waiting, and you know how you always wait for surgery. We were waiting. We were there at 8 in the morning, and I didn't roll into the operating room until 4 in the afternoon. So we're waiting there, and I'm crying a bit. And I'm just saying, I don't believe I'm doing this. I don't believe I'm doing this. And I'm freaked out because I know for a month after that, they're going to give me a drug that will stop any potential deep vein thrombosis. And I met the week before a woman with her husband in a wheelchair who had got a stroke, taking the very drug I'd have to take for a month. So I'm completely freaking out about the whole process. And then I sort of say to myself, you know what? You're going to have to do this. So you better enjoy this. And so I think you need to start, whoever it is, if somebody has to go into the hospital or go into the emergency room, even if they don't have faith in it, first of all, tell them to start sending positive intention to the people who are going to treat them. Positive intention for the process. Break it down into little pieces. I'm going to intend that I get the best therapists, and also do their homework on the, who they're going to be seeing. See the very best person they can in the very best situation they can, the very best hospital they can go to if they have a choice, all of those things, but then start using their mind. It's, I always say, life doesn't have a morality. Life doesn't have an opinion or a judgment. Rain doesn't have an opinion. It's not terrible or it's not magnificent. It's all about the judgment you place on it. So rain can be fabulous, or it can be, if you're in California and it's a drought, or it can be boring and, annoying if you live in the UK and it rains all the time. So it's all about the judgment, the overlay you place on it. It's all about your thoughts. So the same is in the hospital. If the coaching you need to do with that person, this is from Rainbow, is to work on their opinion of the hospital, of the doctor, and to have them send positive intention to it. And positive, and you can even intend for them to open up their minds, because hospitals also do some miracles. ER people also do some miracles. It doesn't have to be all bad or all good. And so putting your attention to the all good will help. Okay, is it possible to set up official Power of 8 groups, somehow being connected to you in your studies? I want to teach people to teach this, but I would prefer that people come through me, because a lot of times people get the information and do it wrong. So I am planning at some point to teach the teachers, but I would prefer that that goes on. And I know somebody said they were interested in researching, collecting evidence on healing. I'd prefer that goes through me. Okay, let's see. How many treatments are usually recommended for one person on which we're working? How long is a piece of string? Can you tell me how many treatments are needed for anything you're doing? You know, I think it really depends on the individual, so many different things. Okay, let's see. Is this course open to everyone who has an interest in healing in the Power of 8? Yes, it's best. I'm really focusing it on professionals. If you're someone who, in general, who wants to learn about healing and using a Power of 8 in your own life, I'd really recommend my various courses. The Intention Essentials, I'll be running that in English again in October. The Master Class, which is the year-long class that kicks off at the end of January, early February, or our advanced class, which we'll be giving in June, called Intention in and Out of Time. And that I'll be running with my husband, Brian Hubbard, author of The Untrue Story of You and the developer of the Time Light program, which is now being used by psychiatrists in Germany to help people heal their past, people who are not getting better with ordinary psychiatric issues. And that class, that advanced class, is really about using intention to heal your life, heal your past. Okay, so let's see if we got anything else. Okay, somebody said, yeah, as an alternative body worker, she says her work is about undoing the language that people that the traditional practitioners lay on and are lumped with. It's exhausting. Power of language is key. Because I'm not traditional, it takes a while for them to believe what I say, as they're conditioned to believing men in white coats are always right, and anything alternative should be viewed with caution and skepticism. I'm sorry to hear that, because I think more and more people are willing and desiring of going to alternative practitioners, because the conventional route for a lot of chronic illness doesn't work. So let's see, I've got just a minute more. Let's see. Would you say that the power of negative thoughts also affect leaders, the mindset thoughts, as they go about coaching, empowering the reportees to get beyond limiting beliefs and achieve goals? I'm not quite sure what you mean. The power of negative thinking affects everybody, you know? I mean, it's, as I say, the power of 8 is something that anybody could benefit from. Somebody else asked, is it possible to take the course in Spanish? Check my website, lynnmctaggart.com. Under courses, you will see that I'm teaching Intention Essentials in Spanish. And it kicks off, the course itself kicks off on April 27th. So Anna says, I've always had the dream of a clinic working this way. Wouldn't that be amazing? Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, I think every place should be using these kinds of techniques and watching their languaging and helping their patients understand that the key to their healing is in their mind and in their heart. So everybody, it's been really lovely. I can see there's loads and loads more comments, but this is really the end of my talk, but we're happy to answer more questions. And you can just put this, once we post this on Facebook, if you have more questions about the course and about the Power of 8, please feel free to put them there. So thank you so much for being part of this. And Laura for monitoring the chat. Thank you so much. And apologies once again for this not going through on Facebook Live, but we'll be posting this and we'll be keeping you up to date on what's going on with this course. So thank you very much, everybody, for your interest in my work, as always, and look forward to seeing you soon. And I hope to see you on this course or another one that I'm going to be doing. Take care. Bye.